France were punished for their stubbornness. Didier Deschamps' stubbornness. That's what cost them the game in that semi-final. And I will explain that in a bit. Before I do, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comments. I don't know what you guys made of that semi-final and how France lost that game to Spain, but I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. But please leave a comment here. The reason I say France were punished is because Spain are a very predictable team, but in a good sense. So their game is built on automatisms, repeated patterns. So you know exactly what you have to deal with, except that it is so difficult to cope with it. 9 out of 10 teams can't stop them. But there are a few teams who have got so much quality, enough quality, in fact, probably have more quality than Spain, that under the right tactical context, with the right setup, I think they have enough to beat Spain, if not run them close and make the game a contest. And I think France are one of those. And that is why yesterday's performance was disappointing. And that is why I thought Didier Deschamps sold himself short in the way he set up the team to play and the way he approached it. Yesterday in the morning, I said on Joy Prime that Spain were going to beat France, because I have looked at the 2 previous games between France and Spain, and they all ended one way. There were too many similarities there in terms of how France approached the game, that double pivot, and the idea that they thought they could go with a double pivot front 4 and get the better of Spain. It simply will not work against them. And yesterday was another game where Didier Deschamps decided to go with a double pivot and then a front 4 against Spain and got punished for it. They did not compete. In fact, this was the least competitive I've seen of France in the last 3 meetings against Spain. So I thought if someone has beaten you twice with the same strategy and approach, you would learn lessons from it and at least adapt. If they beat you a 3rd time while you were trying to adapt or change your approach to the game, we'll give you a bit of grace. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt that, Charlie, you had learned lessons from it. But this wasn't the case. The way Spain play, they always find an extra man. And it doesn't matter in what phase of play. Even if it is the goalkeeper passing the ball and you are pressing full on, going man for man, the movements of the players are so fluid that there is always a spare man that they will pass the ball to. So they will draw rings around you. And it is one thing that has been a key characteristic of Spanish football across different generations. And that's why I felt, and if you look at the teams that have run Spain close in this tournament, so Cape Verde, Belgium, Cape Verde actually stopped Spain. Low block, Belgium did a mid block, but it is one of these 2 things. And you cut out the passing lanes, invite them onto yourselves. But you have essentially a 3-man midfield or low block where your 3rd attacking player is sacrificed as a midfielder who has to mark Rodri, and then you cut out the passing lanes, and so you move, because ultimately what gives Spain that extra man in every phase of the play is the movements of Dani Olmo and then Mikel Oyarzabal. So it is those 2 players who keep alternating between the lines. So whenever a teammate runs into traffic, they will pause, wait and force an opponent to make a decision, often by trying to press them or move slightly. The space opens up, and then they would see Oyarzabal or Dani Olmo in between the lines, and they will find them. So going with a double pivot and that half-hearted press that France executed was never going to work. And that's why I felt that they perhaps needed an extra body in the middle of the pack, especially at halftime, when it became painfully obvious that this game was traveling in the same trajectory as the game at the Euros, as the game in the Nations League. You can't beat them playing that way. Also, the idea of a 3rd man is not necessarily to go and wrestle control of possession. You don't need possession to head Spain. You only need to be very efficient when you have the ball. And it's a wild goose chase anyway. They are better at keeping the ball than you. So you don't need possession to head Spain. You don't even need to try. But the very essence of that 3rd midfielder is to match them in the middle of the pack when they have it, is to go man for man, is to neutralize that third man they can find, that extra man they can find in the pockets. And then with your front three, be patient and hit on the counter brace and sustain attacks. France didn't do that. There was nothing like that. When Adrien Rabiot was being substituted, the manager still decided to bring on Manu Kone and maintain that double pivot and the front four. It never worked. I thought at halftime, maybe Desiree Doué or Michael Olise had to come off, introduce Zaire Emery, or he could have kept Adrien Rabiot, use him as the quarterback, and unleash Manu Kone and then Aurelien Tchouameni as the two aggressive players when France didn't have the ball. But that did not happen. And the other thing that I thought killed France yesterday was Kylian Mbappe. Because in the first half, each time France appeared to be able to sustain possession and attempted to build some momentum, Mbappe was caught offside. And that killed their attacks time and time and again. In the second half, the same. In fact, the second one was painful because it happened just before the cooling break. And after that, France never recovered. So each time they will try to sustain possession, they will keep the ball for more than 15 seconds. That final pass from Mbappe to latch onto, he was always offside. And in games like that, you need your key players to be able to, especially in an attacking sense, to hold up play and draw teammates into play and keep the attack alive as long as it takes, even if it is for 2 extra seconds than he would like. But keep the attack alive as often as it takes, as long as it takes. And Kylian Mbappe could not do that. He was caught offside. And he, just like everyone else in that attack, he really didn't have much to feed on. But he, especially, when he had service, he was offside. So, but fundamentally, I think Didier Deschamps' approach sold France shots, gave the forwards nothing really to feed on because they could not even compete in midfield. They were constantly overrun. And it was a very mature Spanish performance. They knew that they didn't have to blow France away. Just dominate them in the middle of the park, starve them of possession, force them to chase shadows, and that would have been it. It's disappointing because this is the third time Spain have played this way. The same Luis de la Fuentes has played this way against the same Didier Deschamps. And Deschamps still decided to stick to the approach that has not worked in the previous meetings. And in football at this level, that kind of stubbornness gets punished. And I love the fact that it was punished by Spain. I don't know what you guys make of how France lost that game, but share that with me if you agree, if you disagree. And who was your man of the match? Which of those players from Spain stood out for you? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching.